Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending My HR Council's third Tuesday webinar, Digital Life Skills, Not Just an IT Problem. My name is Ann Young. I am the Director of Business Development at My HR Council, and I will be facilitating today's session. Before we start, I want to let everyone know that today's webinar is being recorded. All attendees will be receiving a follow-up email later this week that will include the recording of the webinar, the slide deck, HRCI credit if you are certified and need the recertification credits, and a link to a free cyber risk assessment. If you have any questions on today's topic, we would love to hear from you and encourage you to reach out to us through our Ask an Attorney portal. That way we can give you specific legal guidance. Or just click the My Circle at the top right-hand corner of our website. If you're not a client yet, but are interested in learning more about My HR Council and how we can help protect your company, not only in the cyber world, but from all costly claims, please reach out to us at info@myhrcouncil.com. Okay, let's get started. Kicking off today with crucial information on employers' responsibility when it comes to cybersecurity and the imperative policies you need to put into place to avoid risk for your company is Britt Waterman, Senior Associate Attorney at My HR Council. Britt is a former unemployment law judge and one of our most trusted employment law experts. She's been practicing law for going on 2 decades and has delivered webinars too numerous to mention for the public, our clients, and our partners. You're all in good hands. Britt, the floor is yours.
Great, thanks, Ann. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. As Ann said, our presentation today, our main speaker will be discussing digital life skills, not just an IT problem. I'm going to do an intro to our main speaker by discussing some employment law solutions dealing with cybersecurity, and these are things that My HR Council, as an employment law firm, can help you with to get prepared to lay the foundation for setting up for those digital life skills, kind of the employment law boots on the ground foundation that you need to keep your employees safe and to keep your company safe. So, taming the Wild West of technology. Employees need to know what exactly the rules and expectations are before they ever turn on a device. And the line between personal use and work use these days is completely blurred. I mean, does anyone turn off anymore? We scroll through Twitter and Instagram at work. You could be doing it right now. I'm not offended. But we read a work email that pops up when we're browsing TikTok videos at home. People have to learn to code switch between how to leave a Facebook comment and how to respond to a work message. So just like I like to call IT resources and communication policies the new dress code. So everyone has a way that they dress when they're alone in their home, a way they dress when they're hanging out with family and friends or when they're going to Target, and a way they dress professionally. You have to tell them that you expect that last one at work. It's the same with IT use. So people may behave one way on websites that they frequent anonymously alone. They may behave one way on social media or blogs with friends or with the general public, and they may behave a third way when they're using your IT resources. You have to tell them that you expect that professional communication with the use of IT resources at work, and also safety, not disclosing the kind of information at work that they maybe would disclose on social media or anonymously using their own technology at work alone. And misuse could be disastrous for you, both in the issues of cybersecurity that our speaker Ryan is going to talk to you about, but also it could be disastrous in terms of sexual harassment claims, racial, religious discrimination and harassment claims. Your employees could get involved in illegal activity. We've seen child pornography, drugs and weapons trafficking, insider trading is a big one. You could have loss or disclosure of confidential company information. loss or disclosure of private employee information, financial loss from damage, loss, or theft of company property, tarnishing of your brand or your company image or goodwill. All of this can happen without having a good IT systems and resources communication policy. So these are the things that your policy should cover, but not be limited to. If it can be hacked, if it can be modified, if it can be used to breach company security or company privacy, if it can be used to transmit any type of communication on behalf of the company, whether that's intercompany or intra-company, then it needs to be covered by your policy. And these policies that I'm referring to today are things that we draft for our clients. So as Ann said, you can open a ticket if you have questions about these policies, if you are looking to have a comprehensive policy for your own company, if you're not a client and you're wondering, do I have this policy? Am I covered? You can certainly reach out to us at the info@myhrcouncil.com and we can share with you all of the employment law solutions, policies, things to cover your company and keep your company and your employees safe. So these are the things that should be covered by your IT resources and communication system policy. You need to let your employees know that they have no expectation of privacy in their use of your IT communication resources. So don't play detective and start snooping after the fact. Be proactive. Tell the employees that this includes the monitoring, intercepting, accessing, recording, disclosing, inspecting, reviewing, retrieving, and printing of transactions, messages, communications, postings, logins, recordings, and other use of the systems, as well as keystroke capturing and other network monitoring technologies. It's kind of a mouthful. But that's what employees need to know, that you are doing all of those things as soon as they flip a switch and turn their computer on when they come in the morning. So most policies include the statement that just using the resources is consenting to that monitoring. So by sending an email, you're saying the company has the right to view all of my company emails. You should also have that acknowledged in your handbook, that that's one of the policies, that by signing the handbook, they are consenting to the IT communication resource policy. Confidential information. So this is information, obviously you prohibit your employees from using IT and communication resources to disclose your confidential information. We're going to hear a little bit later about how to keep your confidential information from being disclosed to the wrong sources. One thing is that is important is that not just to prohibit disclosing your confidential information, you've got to prohibit your employees from looking for, accessing, using, or storing anyone else's confidential information, because you don't want somebody else's trade secrets on your system. That's a violation of law. That's going to get you in huge trouble if your employees are looking for that. You have two choices. You can completely ban personal use, or you can allow personal use of your computer systems. You can prohibit all use of everything. Some of you know that there was a decision by the National Labor Relations Board, Purple Communications, that did require employers to allow personal use of company provided email during non-working time. This was overturned by Caesars Entertainment, which was another decision. This was issued when the National Labor Relations Board was a majority Republican board. The National Labor Relations Board became majority Democrat on August 28th, 2021. So we'll see whether this pendulum swings back the other way. The House has also passed the PRO Act, which would codify Purple Communications and make it law that you have to allow your employees to use their company provided email for personal use. You can tell your employees they have to put their devices in their lockers at work and can't use them at all. You have to be careful. You have to, if your employees have no other way to communicate with each other during non-working time, you do have to make some way available for your employees to communicate with each other during non-working time for the purposes of organizing for mutual aid. So be careful that your employees can communicate if you're banning technology altogether. If you're allowing some use of employer technology, then you should make it clear that policies that apply to in-person behavior apply to cyber behavior. Nothing that you would do in person at the office in front of other people or walking up to another person on the street should ever be done on the internet, online, using the employer's resources. Even with legal off-duty conduct laws, there are laws that prohibit you from discriminating against employees for legally using marijuana or alcohol off-duty. Your employees are on duty and you can regulate what they're looking at or what they're posting. Don't discriminate. Don't allow employees to look at a Christian charity website, but prohibit them from looking at a Muslim website. Just keep that in mind, not to discriminate, but your employees should not be using your technology to proselytize, to try and solicit other employees into their religious or political causes. Social media policy. You need a social media policy, and this is something that is not necessarily connected to hacking, to cybersecurity, but you don't want your employees opening the door with their social media to phishing attacks or attracting people that might not have the best intentions about their digital use of your company's information. You don't want employees opening the door with their social media by blurring that line between you as the company and the employees as employees in their personal lives. You do need to let employees identify themselves as company employees on social media to organize for mutual aid and to call attention to unfair labor practices. So you cannot prohibit them from saying, I work at company X. You can require them to make it clear that they do not speak for the company and that they must direct inquiries to the proper channels. Again, with those legal off-duty conduct laws, you can't fire someone just because you see on social media that they smoke or drink or use recreational marijuana off-duty in some states, but you don't have to allow them to make it look like their use or their behavior is encouraged or endorsed by the company. Depending on what the disparaging is, as far as prohibiting disparaging comments about the company, again, don't step on those Section 7 rights. The National Labor Relations Board has found for employees when the comments on Facebook, when other employees have liked or been a part of a group, the NLRB has allowed comments such as, you know, manager B doesn't pay overtime, she's a terrible jerk. Yes, that is disparaging manager B, but that is allowed under Section 7. Physical security of employer devices. So here's where we're really getting into that, that security, not just kind of putting the fence around your employees in how they conduct themselves when they are logged on and your behavioral expectations for your employees. This is physical security, which is your gatekeeping to cybersecurity. So if there is a hole in the fence with the physical security of employer devices, all of the unwanted foxes and coyotes of cyber hackers are going to get into your henhouse, so to speak. So the physical security of your devices is that fence, is the first line of defense in keeping unwanted individuals out. Secure the physical device, and also secure your files. Back in the day, you'd have them in a file cabinet and only certain people would have the key. Make sure you're using the same level of protection with your digital files. Do not with employees in a home office, don't let the kids jump on the internet or use mom's phone to watch YouTube in the car. If these are employer devices, your policy should make it clear that even if these devices are in a home, they are still only allowed to be touched solely by your employee. Just a few kind of side notes: don't hold paychecks until they bring the laptop back. If they have your equipment, you do have to pay them. You cannot hold paychecks until they bring it back. As far as wage deductions, in some states, employees, in most states, they have to consent in writing to a wage deduction. And in some states, they can't give that consent until you know the amount that you're going to deduct. So just a blanket acknowledgement before giving them the laptop or the phone, saying, I acknowledge you can take the value out of my wages if I don't give it back. In some states, that's not going to work. You have to wait until they don't give it back to get consent to take it out of their check. Some employers have told me that seems unfair. Yes, I get it, but that is the law. If you terminate or somebody quits and you want the device back, always send a prepaid FedEx package. Don't make this difficult. Make this easy for them to send it back and send that prepaid package. In some states, if someone steals the laptop out of the car, or they drop the laptop and break it, you cannot make the employee pay for it. So have a policy prohibiting them from keeping it in the car, so that if it gets stolen, although you cannot make them pay for it, you can terminate them for violating your policy and leaving it out in the car where it's going to get stolen. Everything should be saved to your drive, so that if the laptop is lost, the work is not lost, and if the employee leaves employment, you can still access their work. Emailing to files to personal email, saving to the cloud without permission. Remember that locked file cabinet. Would you let employees take those files home? No, so you don't let them save to their personal email or email to their personal email or save to the cloud without permission. Bring your own device policy. Again, no expectation of privacy. Do the same thing, have a policy and saying, by acknowledging this policy, you agree to the monitoring, recording, remote wiping, and just by using your device for any company purpose, you are consenting to us monitoring, recording, and wiping. Rules about what you can do with the personal content on the employee's device are going to vary from state to state. In some states, you can monitor and remotely wipe their personal data if they are using their own device for work purposes, but that is not true in all states. You need employment law counsel to guide you as to what the law is in your state so that you can remain compliant. Security of that bring your own device. The user, the employee, must allow you full access to the entire device and give you all passwords. Again, even when it's their own device, the same rules apply. Don't email things to your personal email. Don't leave their own device unsecured, even though, yes, it is theirs, but the security rules should still apply. Again, don't let anyone else use it, even if it is theirs. Once they start using it for work, it's hands off for everybody else. And again, don't use it as a mobile hotspot or unsecured Wi-Fi. Again, even if they do that, they would do that for personal use with it. Once they start bringing their own device under your policy, that should change. Compensable time, and it looks like I'm at 20 minutes here, so I will be quick. If you know, or you should have known, that they were working, if they are checking work email on their own device, if they are doing something on their own device that is work related, that is compensable time. You have to pay them. You have to tell them when they are authorized to work. If they are working When they are not authorized, your response should be to discipline them, not to not pay them. You have to pay employees for all of the work they perform, even if you do not authorize it. So make sure you are monitoring the time that they are using their own device for work purposes. Other policy elements you should have in that: bring your own device, don't use it when you're operating motor vehicle, don't use it to violate company policies, as we talked about with the rest of the technology. Whether you have to reimburse them for it is going to be depending on state law. So our policies, everything I've talked about here is half the battle. So this is one step in protecting your IT and communications resources. All your employees, in addition to following these policies, also have cybersecurity duties and responsibilities. That's going to require knowledge and training. So that's what we're about to talk about. So set up the framework with your policies, the policies that we've just talked about here. Get those in place so that your employees know where the boundaries are with regard to the use of your IT resources. Then, as we're going to give you a link to see where you are at risk and what you and your employees can do at that point to keep you safe.
Thank you, Britt. Such great information for employers to keep in mind when they're looking at their outdated employee handbooks and reviewing their needs for updated policies and procedures. And now, complementing what Britt just shared with us and building on how we can all be more proactive in protecting ourselves in the world of cybersecurity, is Ryan Cloutier, president of Security Studio. Ryan has over 15 years of experience developing cybersecurity programs. He is proficient in cloud security, audit, compliance, network security, and much more. He also co-hosts 2 weekly security podcasts and is included on the top 100 most influential people in cybersecurity. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Is my screen share coming through okay?
Looks good.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And that was great information. You know, the legal side of cyber is very important. What I'm going to talk to you today about is the human side, and how do we get our everyday people, ourselves, our families, our employees, to start to connect with this topic in a way that moves it out of kind of the technical realm and into the life skills realm. And that's why I like to talk about it as digital life skills, and it's not just an IT problem. While I am a bona fide security geek, I do speak human, and that is the best language to use when talking about this with our employees. Very fast, I'm with Security Studio. We are a values-based, mission-focused, vision-driven organization, and our mission is to help folks get their head around this topic. You can follow me on Twitter at CloutierSec, email me at rcloutier@securitystudio.com if you have any questions. So let's start off with who's ultimately responsible for cybersecurity, and that is you the individual. Whether you're an employee of a business, whether you're the business owner, whether you're just at home, you are ultimately responsible for your cyber safety. No one is responsible for you. Security and IT can put all the controls in place, and unfortunately, a user who is not connected to this topic, who is not keeping it front of mind, can undo all of those controls. So hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment right out the window because somebody clicked on a link. 95% of security breaches today are still a result of human error. The reason that's true is that this traditionally has been an IT topic. And when we speak geek, we lose people. We got to talk about this in physical safety. You know, so you recently maybe heard the President of the United States say that all of us as individual citizens now have to step up our cybersecurity game to protect the nation. So this is bigger than just protecting the business and its information. While that's very important, it's also about protecting ourselves, our families, and our physical safety. The line between physical and digital has now blurred to where a digital event can cause a physical impact. We just had a deal come out 2 weeks ago affecting backup batteries. So a lot of us have those backup batteries for if the power goes out, we can still run our computers. those can now be attacked by cyber criminals and made to superheat and in some cases start on fire. So that's why this is important. Your actions or inactions have an impact on others. We refer to the internet as the information superhighway. The unfortunate truth is the majority of us are drunk driving the wrong direction down that information superhighway. And not because we mean to, but because we haven't connected with this as a non-technical issue. And at the end of the day, you as the individual, you do make all the difference. So for you business leaders, as you think about how you're going to approach your security awareness training, how you're going to approach policy, think from a culture perspective. How do we bake security and safety into our business culture so that it's not an extra, it's not an add-on, but it's just part of what we do? We heard Britt give us all these examples of things that we, mandate onto our employees. This should be one of them. That this is culture. It's not extra. And then just one last piece. As a security professional, I refer to BYOD as bring your own disaster. From a security practice, the more you can simplify, the more you can limit the opportunity for crossover between personal and work systems and data, the less at risk you're going to be. And while BYOD does provide convenience, that convenience might not be worth the risk. And if you're serving critical infrastructure or public sector, that employee device potentially could also be called into scope for any FOIA request. So keep that in mind. Myself at Security Studio, we do not allow for BYOD. It keeps it easier for us to make sure everything is up to date and secure. So unfortunately, accountability is a word that folks struggle with. So we can talk about this as empowerment, we can talk about this as responsibility or accountability, but at the end of the day, the business leader needs to demonstrate to the employees that they take this seriously, that this isn't just an extra thing to do, but it is part of how the business is going to stay safe today, tomorrow, and into the future. By having folks that are accountable to their actions and behaviors, like we heard about from Britt, we actually create a more safe environment. So it's the bedrock of safety. It applies to everyone. It's going to help you drive change. It absolutely improves your security, reduces your risk, and at the end of the day, without it, effective security fails. Folks, not knowing what to do or when, or who to report to or why, these types of things make all the difference. I've been on many, many incident responses in my career, and the companies that were prepared, that had plans, that had accountability in place were the companies that we got recovered in 24 to 48 hours with minimal to no media exposure. Companies who did not have those things in place, they ended up being the nightly news and down for weeks at a time in some cases. So what's happened that made this evolution? The world has changed, and you notice here I put 2020 plus. For some of us, it just feels like 2020 is still going, but the reality is over the last 25 years, we've completely shifted how we conduct life, how we do business, how we manage relationships, how we go to the doctor, how we date, how we shop, how we learn, and now it is all being done on these devices. Technology has changed how we live. The sad truth is most of us are still very unsafe online. We don't know what online danger looks like. Human beings are natural managers of risk. In your physical world, you have physical responses when danger or risk is present. A good example is if you get too close to the edge of a cliff, you will feel a tightening, an increase in your pulse, a shortness in your breathing. If that car on the highway gets a little too close to you, you have that physical feeling. Online, we don't. And that's why we have to practice this as a life skill and as a habit. We teach the kids, look both ways before you cross the street. Don't touch the stove because it's hot. We need to learn those same digital life skills at that same level of importance because we don't have those other physical triggers that help us avoid risk. So knowledge is your best defense. And that is because we are analog humans living a digital life. So, and as a human being, our hardware and our software is biologic, it's analog. And it works very well for what it was designed to do. But the minute that we get into our digital life, we lack a converter. In the technology world, if I want to take something analog and make it digital, I have to have a converter. So for example, when I turned all of my records, my LPs, into MP3s, I had a converter to convert that analog signal to digital. Well, as humans, we don't have that converter. So because we live in a world that is now digital, and digital can impact physical, we have to confront this because we don't have that natural ability. So as we think about how we're going to do training, we may not be as successful with that pre-canned, slide deck security awareness training that all of us have taken. And if we're being honest with ourselves, the first time we took it, we paid attention. The second time we took it, we were busy checking Facebook on the right screen while waiting for the boring recording to end on the left screen so that we could click the answer until we got the green check mark and move on. This has led us to have employees that are unsafe, that don't put the culture of security and the thinking that's required at the front of their mind. Digital can affect your ability to think rationally. One of the techniques the bad guys use is they will hit you with things that are very urgent. I need this right now, do this right now. They tend to hit you on Monday mornings when you're overwhelmed and Friday afternoons when you're in a hurry to get to your weekend. They know that humans are most susceptible to falling for scams, phishing, or fraud during those times. So it's important that we change how we approach this and move it away from this idea of it's a technology thing or it's IT's problem or there's a piece of software that solves this. That's not true. We have to be active defenders and active participants in safety. And we ask our employees to do this already in the physical realm, right? We have them badge in, we keep the door locked, we have rules about not inviting, strangers into the building, we have security cameras in a lot of cases to monitor the facilities. So we're just asking the employee to adopt a new skill that already fits what they understand. Now, if it was up to me, every device would come with this warning label, but unfortunately, it's not up to me. But people should know, cell phones are addictive, and addiction has a physical impact. It also makes you more prone to scam and fraud. The device will lose your information at some point. Everyone on this call today is going to experience a cyber event. It is not a matter of if, it is only a matter of when. And feel free to use this as part of your awareness to your employees. We say a little tongue in cheek that it's likely to burn your house down, but the truth is there are multiple smart devices now that can be accessed over the internet and cause to superheat. Smart chargers, smart ovens, smart power supplies, and as we continue to adopt new technology, we expect this trend to continue. The other thing that's an interesting phenomenon is because we have these devices in our hand in our most intimate of settings. We take these devices into the restroom with us. We take these devices into our bedroom. That intimacy lowers our guard. And so if you are thinking about a BYOD type of situation, realize that your employee is going to use that device with a much lower guard than they would if it was an employer-only device. So that's one reason that you might want to consider limiting BYOD. The other thing is these devices have to be kept up to date. So if we're going to put the onus on the employee to make sure they're updating their cell phone, we've got to have mechanisms in place. Our policies should reflect that requirement, but that can maybe be too burdensome. I'll give you a quick example. I, as a security guy, obviously take this very seriously, but I'll be honest, I'm human first, and that update, it never comes at a good time. I'm busy doing something. I'm replying to an email, I'm watching a TikTok video, I'm booking a flight. And so I'm like, wow, I don't have time to update the phone and have it be down for 5 minutes right now. So I delay. But within 3 days, I will make sure to apply that update. And a way that I've done this to keep it convenient for myself is I apply the update right before I get in the shower. Now, ideally, you're not taking your phone into the shower with you, although I have seen some strange things on the internet. So but if you work it into your schedule to where it's non-disruptive and non-interruptive, you're more likely to follow through on it and do it. So traditional security awareness is about fear mongering. The hackers are going to come, they're going to steal all the data, the world's going to fall apart. I've even told you some scary things already about, potential physical damage. It's important to know what the risks are, but fear has really been overplayed. We want to take employees from scare to care. We want them to feel empowered that they are part of the company's defense. The more that we can encourage them that they play a very important and active role, the more likely they are to do it. We want to make sure that our if we are going to do phishing testing, which can be helpful if it is put in context as to being helpful. If we don't put it in proper context and we just phish and surprise them, and then they click the link, and then we give them a video that pulls them away from what they were working on, that can actually make that employee resistant to security, can actually make that employee less likely to report an event when it happens. So make sure we put it in context. And just like I'm doing with you today, I'm speaking human, not tech, right? So yes, phishing and ransomware and malware and all these terms are terms, and folks should be aware of them. But what's more important is using relatable analogies. A quick example, I have a very good friend of mine that can't help but fail the phishing tests on a regular basis. And a few weeks ago, I was talking to them, and they said, "Oh, I fell for it again." And I said, "Now, why? You know better. You hang out with me. How does this keep happening?" And they said, I don't know. I guess I don't get it. I said, "Tell me what happens when you click the link." And they said, "I click the link and I get malware, and the malware goes to the server." I said, "What does that mean?" They said, "I don't know." I said, "Let me tell you another way. When you click the link, you've held open the front door, you've invited the criminal into your living room, and then you've left the house." They said, "Oh my gosh, why has no one ever said it that way to me before? I didn't realize my actions had that kind of impact on the company." And now this person is the #1 reporter of suspicious emails in that business. So connecting on that human level, taking the tech speak out of it, makes folks more able to understand why it matters that they do these extra things we're asking of them. It does take all of us working together. Back to something I said previously, I can have the greatest security program in the world, and one user who's not acting in an active defense and defending the company and saying, "Well, let me slow down and read the email out loud because it's asking me to send a check for a bag of gold." Now, if somebody was at your front door asking for cash for a bag of gold they had, you would be very suspicious. You might even call the police. Yet folks fall for that email scam 100 times a day, every day. So all of us working together, supporting each other, using reward-based solutions and not punitive can be very helpful. The most effective security awareness programs I've ever seen are the ones where there's awards given. Could be just a simple electronic badge, could be a candy bar. But the team that reports the most suspicious email each month gets a prize, versus the punitive, which is you click the link, now we got to put you through this boring training, and if you do it again, your job's at risk. That actually drives the wrong behavior from our employees. So what should we be looking out for? And for those of you on the call that are old enough to remember this, if you're an 80s baby, we used to have these things called Mr. Yuck Stickers, and we put them on things that were potentially dangerous or poisonous. I think this is still a great way to convey the message. So what we're looking out for are social media surveys. Most folks have overshared on social media, and cyber criminals know this and can actually use your social media to get what they need for your password reset. I can generally find people's dog name, cat name, when they got married, what city, what day, who their friends are, who their oldest cousin is. And a lot of this sounds like password reset questions for the bank, their favorite band. It's all over social media publicly. The one that still blows my mind is how many people are interested in what spirit animal they are. You want to avoid these surveys. These surveys are a lot of times mining you for information. Sometimes it's run by cyber criminals, other times it is scam artists or advertising companies trying to learn more about you. So as much as you can, please avoid taking those surveys. Any kind of offer for free stuff or money, the exception being today we are going to give you something free that does not have a catch or a gimmick. But generally, if that email's coming in and Bill Gates wants to give you part of his fortune, say it out loud to yourself and go, does he really? Probably not. So we want to watch out for that. Any urgent request. So in Security Studio, if the request is urgent, the employees are instructed to stop what they're doing. Completely stop what you're doing. Unless you are an emergency room doctor actively saving a life in an emergency room, you have 3 to 5 seconds to slow down. Look away from the screen, look back at the screen, look away and look back. And in doing that physical action, you actually cause your brain to take a fresh snapshot of what you're looking at, so that you see that extra letter in the email that isn't quite right, or you see that that link seems a little funny. So urgent requests actually should be treated as an opportunity to stop. That is best practice from a security perspective. We want to avoid apps or websites that we're unfamiliar with. There's a lot of great apps in the App Store. And you'll hear people say, free isn't free. Those apps may do what they said they are going to do, and they may also do 10 other things. If we look at the permissions that a lot of these apps look for, it's ridiculous. I had a calculator app that I got once that wanted access to my contacts and my camera and to store data and to send email. Well, what does a calculator need all that for? And a lot of these app companies actually sell that data and make more money on that than they ever would on the app. So if you're not familiar with it, avoid is a good idea. And if you really want it and you're not familiar, go to Twitter, go to Google, see if others are talking about it being legit or a scam, but verify that. You want to avoid unsolicited communications. And it's particularly hard in the world of sales, but if you didn't ask for it, if you're not expecting it, it should be treated with a healthy degree of skepticism. As a business leader, I get a lot of attacks. A lot of scam artists want to try to fool me. They try to fool my employees by pretending to be me. My employees have been trained. If it's unsolicited, if you weren't expecting it, verify. Jump on that Teams chat. Hey, did you really just send that to me? Jump on a video call. If you happen to have the luxury of being in the office together, go walk down the hall and pop into the cubicle or the office. Hey, is this legit? Doing that will prevent you from falling victim to cybercrime. You want to watch out for threats or claims of being hacked. Unfortunately, we are seeing a significant increase in blackmailing. One common email that goes around says, I have a video of you doing inappropriate things with yourself, and I'm going to release that video to the whole internet if you don't click this link or give me some money or do this thing. That is not true. Well, it is true that your webcam can be accessed by cyber criminals if you have not taken proper precautions. That particular email is a scam, and it's trying to scare people. What I tell you is if you get that email and you get hot and sweaty, you may want to rethink your life choices. Otherwise, it's a scam and you could ignore it. But postal mail, good old-fashioned snail mail, still a very effective way of scamming. One attack to be on the lookout for that's very popular right now is sending you an Amazon package addressed to maybe a person that doesn't actually work at your company. And what the bad guys are doing is they're putting hacking equipment inside the package, knowing that that package is going to rotate through the business for at least a good day, maybe even up to a week. And during that time, the package is not open. That hacking equipment is stealing the information from the wireless networks, from any wireless communication that it can. And it isn't until you finally open the package that you realize that's happened. So be on the lookout for that as well. So we like to talk about this as life skills, not IT skills. And the reason we take this approach is that technology is part of everyday life. I challenge you to live a normal, regular day of your current life without any technology at all, without you using technology in your personal life. No driving of a car if it was made after the year 2000, no pumping of gas at the gas pump, no purchasing anything, no going to the doctor, right? Because everywhere we go now is technology. So that's why safe use of technology is a basic life skill. We teach ourselves safe use of the stove, of driving cars, of getting, flying airplanes, being, out in public, crowds, all these things we adopt as life skills to keep ourselves safe. This is just another life skill. We're going to want to be very careful about what we install and what we click. So back to, those phishing emails can be a thing. We're seeing an increase in mobile malware where the app is, appears to be legitimate, does what the app says, but it's also doing other things. So we want to just be cautious. why, asking ourselves why, and are we comfortable? If we do this and something goes wrong, are we comfortable? Just that simple, quick conversation with yourself can prevent a lot of issues. Life skills are continuous. We have to keep up. Things change. So getting in that mindset, having the culture that says, security for us now is just something we do. We're going to focus on it. We're not going to try to be security wizards or technological experts, but we are going to think, a little harder about, should I do that? Should I verify? Is this really legit or not? And just that basic 2 to 3 second hesitation and questioning prevents 80 to 90% of the likelihood that you will have a cyber event due to employee error. Ultimately, everyone is responsible. So we need to look like what digital danger looks like. Britt made a great example earlier where she referred to policy as dress code. I absolutely agree, and I would augment that in addition to policy being dress code, having a device that is updated with the latest security patches is equal to being fully dressed. And having devices that are vulnerable to attack when there is a known fix for that from the vendor and not applying it is equal to showing up to the office not fully dressed. So we need to learn how to keep our devices updated. The good news is every one of us on the call today has access to the internet. Google has lots of how-to videos for non-technical people on things like how to update your cell phone, how to update your laptop, how to keep that technology in your life as safe and secure as you can. Understand there is no such thing as complete risk elimination. This is why we have lawyers. This is why we have insurance. There's no such thing as complete security. But what we can do is reduce the risk as much as possible and then properly plan for what happens when. And we do this today when it comes to things like severe weather or fires. None of us walk into the office in fear the building's going to burst into flames, yet we have evacuation procedures, we have fire extinguishers, we have sprinkler systems, because we realize it could happen. So what's most important is making sure things are up to date, and then train the employees to know what to do when something happens. Quick story, I had an employee at a business we were working with. This employee clicked the link and the ransomware showed up. And because they were uninformed on what to do next, and frankly, they were embarrassed, they powered off the monitor, came down with a sudden scratchy throat, and went home for the day. Had we known when it was just that one computer, we could have stopped it, cleaned it up, and it would have been just one computer. But because the employee didn't know what to do and was embarrassed, they went home, and by the next morning, over 100,000 computers across the globe were down. This particular business was losing somewhere in the order of $1.2 million an hour. And it was really, the root cause was because the employee didn't know what to do when something happened. So it's very important to train them on that. You need to know what apps are popular and why, especially if you are in that shared BYOD type environment. We're seeing what we call off-channel sharing, social engineering, which is where the cyber criminal, works the employee. And sometimes it's not your employee that they go after right away. Sometimes they go after the relatives of your employee. We had a situation where the sister of a vice president of the bank was attacked so they could gain control of the sister's email because they knew that the vice president of the bank was most likely going to open that cat meme that the sister had sent to him. So know what's going on and why, and then talk about what you've learned. Don't be shy about sharing your experiences. So risk reduction starts with a conversation. You as business leaders should be asking your managed service providers and your IT providers, how at risk are we? And they should provide you with either, I don't know, let's figure it out, let's assess it, or they should be able to provide you some type of measurable, objective, quantifiable thing. If they can't, if it's murky, we're doing pretty good. I'll leave it to the lawyers to tell me whether or not that's defensible, but I've never seen unsure hold up in any kind of litigation. They generally want to know that you can prove you were doing what you said. So that leads us to risk assessments, and we'll get you one at the end of this session here that you can take, but it's going to help you figure out what you have exposed for risk. It's going to give you focus. It's going to help you to create a plan. It is absolutely a foundation of good security. the better that you have assessed your risk, the more leverage you have in conversations with your insurance underwriters. As most of us are probably experiencing right now, we're seeing a significant increase in our premiums. So, the better you can articulate what you have and what's at risk and what's not, the more likely you can get a better rate. Make sure whatever you do, you use a system of measurement. The one you guys will get at the end of this provides this system of measurement. It's just like a credit score, and the numbers mean the same. So if you're at a 300, you're very, very at risk. And if you are a 620 or better, you're on the way to great credit or great security, and you're much less at risk. Big one everyone should be doing, if anyone on this call today or listening to the recording has not yet done this, multi-factor authentication, please, anywhere and everywhere you can. Multi-factor authentication can reduce the likelihood of a cyber event by 60 to 80%, and that's because it gives that second step. So for example, if somebody tries to log into your email and they found your password somehow, right? They found it in another database that got breached, or they figured it out from your social media. If you have multi-factor on, then you get that alert that says, hey, somebody's trying to log in. Do you approve or deny? Well, if you know you're not trying to log in, you can hit deny, and that stops that attack dead in its tracks. Getting buy-in for this can be challenging. I recommend you start at the top. You're going to need to communicate several times, especially since you're most likely going to ask them to put something on a personal device. And even if you don't have a BYOD policy, the app that you're asking them to install, you don't have any visibility to, you cannot control. It is not a violation of their privacy. It does not give you the ability to access their information. So you're going to need to communicate that several times. You're going to want to start with your remote access and critical systems. So those systems that the absence of would cause business to stop. And if you're large enough, or if the employees are resistant enough, you may need to provide them multiple options, such as hardware tokens, different authenticator apps, or in some cases, a 3-step authentication with email. Make sure that let them know, hey, part of this is ensuring payday happens. We recently dealt with a ransomware event where the payroll system was part of what got ransomed, and we were unable to cut checks that day. Ultimately, it got fixed, but it was an absolute nightmare for finance, and it required going down to the bank and manually filling out checks. Make sure to set a date for participation. So when you roll out multi-factor, understand change takes time. So set that date when you expect 100% participation. And you should also include in your acceptable use policy that multi-factor is a minimum requirement. Vulnerability and patch management. So like the slide says, bad actors win when we don't do the basics. Today, I am still finding, and this is in small business, big business, large enterprise, and government, even the Department of Defense needs to do a better job of patching and updating. And with the recent ruling of the Federal Trade Commission, you could potentially be held civilly liable if you do not do basic patching and multi-factor. They consider that a violation of consumer protection. Again, I'm not an attorney, so please check with your attorneys. That is not legal advice. That is just my interpretation of what I'm seeing. The majority of systems today have some kind of unpatched vulnerability. Most vulnerabilities do have a fix for them. So vulnerability simply means a flaw in the software that allows a bad actor or cyber criminal to make the computer do what they want it to do. There is no such thing as perfect software. All software has bugs. What's most important is we keep up with it. And if you can't patch it for some reason because it's maybe a legacy system, there are creative ways your IT team can help reduce that risk. Bottom line, do something. And lastly, isolate and segment. And your IT folks will know what that means, but basically try to keep those mission critical business systems on a separate network segment from maybe those less critical functions. So how do we get this going in our organization? With culture. It's all about culture. When we treat it as culture, it's not treated as an extra task. It's going to create belonging. It's going to make it personal. It's going to cultivate accountability. It's going to reduce our risk and improve our security. Best way to start with culture is within your own company culture and expand it to include security as a piece. Assets are very important. This again for your IT folks, but you want to know what you have for assets, so your inventory, so that you have visibility to what you have, so that you can properly scope what you have, plan for what you need to do to secure it. By doing that planning, you then get to the spot where you can apply protection, and protection ultimately results in availability. Backups are super important. You want to do them. If you're not backing up today, make sure you're doing so. And if you are not backing your backups up to another location, you want to do that. Bad guys are attacking backups before hitting companies with ransomware. So this particular configuration is considered to be resilient. So it's a local backup. We then send that backup to the cloud, to another data store somewhere else, and ideally to some kind of offline storage, tape, USB drive, or other solution. The S2 assessment, you will get a link for at the end of this, provided by Secure ABC, is going to help you figure out where you're at on your security journey so that you can identify your risk areas, communicate effectively between your technical and non-technical staff, ultimately protecting yourself. And this one, I guess I didn't update, but protecting your family, your employees, and your business. Some quick security facts: 75% of businesses that were affected by a security breach did have up-to-date endpoint protection. So that does not guarantee that you will not get hit. Definitely you want to have endpoint protection, but please don't believe the vendor when they tell you that it prevents cyber attacks. It does not. Most businesses took 34% of businesses took a week or longer to recover from a cyber event. We've seen a 6,000% increase in cyber attacks over the last 2 years, and on average, 1.5 million new phishing sites show up each month. In order to recover from ransomware, basically we're going to assess the impact, we're going to manage those communications, we're going to secure our systems, we're going to verify those systems are actually clean and secure, we're going to restore those backups that we made and moved offline because Ryan told us that was a good thing to do, and then we're going to monitor the systems for any reinfection. And again, this is more for your technical people, but you should understand how this process works. So nearing our time here, what's most important out of everything I covered today is to do something. Do one of the things or a part of one of the things that we talked about. Implement those policies. Work with HR counsel, work with Secure ABC. Do something, because what I can tell you, and again, not a lawyer, but inaction is no longer being considered a defensible excuse. I didn't know, ignorance of it does not seem to hold up in the cases that I've been part of or that I've seen. Any progress at all, once a month I do one thing, that still seems to hold up as true, and our lawyer friends can correct me if I'm misspeaking, but action seems to still be defensible, inaction is not. Some interesting resources for yourself and your family. Please do check out The Social Dilemma. If you have not seen this, it is on Netflix, and it explains exactly how Facebook is using the information you've provided it to manipulate you and also to feed other advertisers. So if you're tired of Google asking you if you want to buy something after you bought it, this is a great documentary to watch. If you have children that are into social media a little too much, maybe they're on TikTok all day long, I encourage you to sit down and watch this with them as well. And it'll help you understand what happens to the data once you give it over. With that, we do have some resources here for you. And again, everyone will get the slide. 2 resources you're going to get today are the Secure ABC S2 Gateway, as well as the S2 Me. This is a free personal risk assessment for looking at what you're doing at home, what your at-home behaviors and habits are. I do encourage you to check it out. It will give you recommendations of things you can do to improve your at-home security. And as we know with remote workers, at-home security is now just as important to in-office security. And I will close with this question. How do you protect your family from cybercrime? And if yourself or your employees cannot answer that, then you generally are going to struggle to answer how you're protecting the business from it as well. I do encourage you to spin that paradigm shift from protecting the business to protecting home. People naturally bring those at-home habits to work, but they generally don't bring those at-work habits to their home. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Those numbers on the increase and the number of phishing attempts per month are absolutely crazy. There's so many kind of shake your head and light bulbs going off moments in both of our presentations today. And if you're thinking the same thing, here's something to consider. My HR Council offers employees the opportunity to minimize their cybersecurity risk with our Ask Pro package. Some of the things that includes is, helping you with legal advice when it comes to your insurance policy to make sure you're avoiding hidden exclusions when it comes to cyber and ransom occasions. How do you contact your clients to inform them if something's happened? How, legal review of your vendor contracts, which is really important to make sure that you're protected if they're damaged by a cyber incident. And then legal help in reviewing settlements and ransom. It's like Ryan said, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So if you'd like more information about our Ask Pro package, please visit our package page on the website, myhrcouncil.com. If you'd like a demo on the Ask Attorney portal or have any other questions, you can email us at info@myhrcouncil.com. So thank you again to Britt and Ryan for their time today. It was a pleasure to have all of you with us. We hope you got some good takeaways from the presentation. Keep your eye out for the email that will include the link for our free cyber risk assessment, which we would recommend each one of you take and see where you stand on that. And we'll see you next month at My HR Council's third Tuesday webinar. Enjoy the rest of your day.